Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women Veterans Alliance member webinar. And I am very pleased and excited to share just a little bit about our speaker today. And before I do that, just let everyone know, video, it's not required. We like everybody to stay on mute if possible. And if you do have questions for the speakers, to please put those in the group chat. This is being recorded and will be available for anyone after if you wanted to go ahead and watch it again. And so let's start with this awesome woman. And Dr. B.R.E.A.T.H.E, Army veteran. She is an educator, a speaker, an author, a mom, and she is the founders of Boots to Breakthrough. If you came to our unconference last year in Monterey, she was one of our breakout session speakers, and let me tell you, everyone that attended her session loved her. And so I wanted to go ahead and introduce her. I don't want to take up much time because I want her to spend all the time talking about what she's going to share with you. And it's very interesting too, is we had this scheduled way before COVID and everything else that's happened in the world. So it's a very timely session that we're going to have to you today. And also too, if you look in the chat box, you can find out more information if you'd like to connect to Dr. Bishop after the call. She has her email address, which you can get her wellness newsletter, and also her phone number as well. So she definitely wants to connect with all of you. So without further ado, Dr. Bishop, let's take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Can you hear me, Melissa?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Hey there, Danielle and Christina. Oh my, and we have someone from a 144 number. Welcome, welcome. I am so excited. And so as people begin to come into our room, I want to take a moment before we really get started to find out, why do you want to change your life? Why do you want to create change in your life? Hey there, Renee, glad you can join us. So if you would go to the chat box, that'll accomplish two things. One, that means you are Zoom literate. And for many of us, we have been really zoomed out in the last several months. But I really am excited to find out exactly, why do you want to create a change in your life? So as people are continuing to come on board, if you would go ahead, sometimes someone may say, oh, for family, or I'm getting used to a new aspect. Just a couple of thoughts, and you would enter that in the chat room right now while we go to the next slide. That'll be terrific. Wonderful, wonderful. That's so. For so many reasons, many of us who have also served in the military have transitioned into civilian life. And in so doing, that in and of itself, oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Christina, Army veteran, working for the US government over 24 years now. Awesome, awesome. Renee, fantastic. Getting ready for a second retirement. Wonderful, I'm so glad. So we'll have a chance to communicate as we go through today's chat. I like to call it a chat. And thank you, Melissa, first and foremost, for your amazing visionary leadership with this organization and offering me the opportunity to join the ladies in our journey today. So now that a couple of you have shared exactly what your background is, I would like to know, for those of you who have transitioned out of the military, just put a 1, 2, or 3 in the box if you are an entrepreneur or self-employed, if you're in healthcare, which of course, this is very timely with us living in the midst of a pandemic. If you have an education background, or if you're currently in education, as Melissa shared earlier, I'm a former school principal as well, or you might have other. So if you would just go ahead and put that in the chat box, that'll give me a good insight in terms of who we have in the audience today. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Christina. All right, so as everybody is, determining, hey there, B.R.E.A.T.H.E, thank you for joining us today. All right, so on the next slide, project manager in the corporate restaurant environment. I'm ready to finally start a career in nonprofit. I spent all my time volunteering. Fantastic. This is awesome. So in today's session, I have two goals. One, I want to encourage participants to identify and gain insight through the B.R.E.A.T.H.E, B-R-E-A.T.H.E steps on how to overcome 7 obstacles that consistently prevent people from living the life they love. And hopefully participants will be introduced and be able to grasp the habits of optimal health and well-being. And so I want to share with you ladies that both of these objectives for this session was what I have had to go through specifically in the last 4 years as I've strived to recreate myself. So as we move to the next slide, I am ready to go ahead and get this party started, because several of you may not have sat in my breakout session last year. So I want to spend a moment sharing a little bit about who I am. All right, so as you can see by that picture to the left, I started out enlisted in the Army, went through basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, spent about 18 years, a combination of reserve and guard, and my only active duty time was during Desert Storm. I'm sure that a number of you on this call here may not have been old enough to be in the military at that time, but it was an amazing experience. And believe it or not, when I joined as an enlisted, I actually met my husband on a flight going to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Go figure how that would happen. You know, not only did I get myself a military career, but I also got a husband. And when I transitioned out of the military, you know, of course, I see here that Danielle mentioned about wanting to start a career in nonprofit. That is exactly what my experience was. So we got stationed from Fort Bragg to Fort Gordon. My husband had a couple of tours, unaccompanied tours as well. And when I began to transition out of my military service, I worked at the Aiken, South Carolina Alcohol and Drug Abuse Center, where I worked with young teen moms and taught them parenting skills so that they can keep their children with their sobriety. And then that led to an opportunity at another nonprofit, a child advocacy center, where because I had earned my counseling degree while stationed at Fort Bragg, that gave me the opportunity to interview kids who were victims of sex abuse. And it's amazing how different experiences we have in life, our leadership as military service members comes to the table, because I'm out there in the community doing child abuse prevention training. And because I got my master's in education degree in counseling, I was offered a guidance counselor position in the school setting. So I have actually been a middle school, high school, and alternative school counselor. And I've been a high school assistant principal, a high school principal, and I've also been a principal of an alternative school. And so I shared earlier, I met my husband, pictured there with our 2 sons on our way going to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And my life took a turn 4 years ago. He was an assistant principal at a middle school. I was a principal at a high school. We were married 28 years. I wake up to kiss him goodbye, as I have every time, except when he was on tour duty, and the Lord had called him home in his sleep. He was 52 years young, died in his sleep of a heart attack. And at that point, even as an officer, as a school administrator, as the firstborn in my immediate family and had 2 brothers, I, this strong woman, felt my world stop at that point in time. And so now, 4 years later, I'm having to redefine and redesign, who am I, Janae Bishop, the person before she became a service member, before she was married, before she had kids. And here I am now, in the blink of an eye, no longer a service member. I decided to leave education and decide what else was there for me to do. And several of you have mentioned transitioning as well from one career to the other. In the blink of an eye, I went from being married 20 years to being a widow. I went from having a house with 2 sons to having an empty nest, because my sons had already graduated high school at that point and were in college. I went from having a 21-year career in education to deciding I needed something different. I felt that the universe had more for me to do. So as we can go to the next slide, who there in the audience have experienced a sudden change in your life and you have felt the need to redesign yourself? If you know how to put a reaction right there in the bottom of your screen is a little smiley face. Oh, that's good, Melissa. There's a little smiley face that says reactions. And when you click on that, you can either do a thumbs up or the little hand there is for hand clapping. If you can relate to the stress of suddenly having to go through a life change, just give a hand clap or a thumbs up if you don't feel like writing in the chat. Absolutely, absolutely. So you're probably wondering, well, why does that bring us back to your original slide? Well, what I forgot to tell you was that Monday morning when my husband had passed away of a heart attack, and for those of you who may be aware of the Heart Association, they shared that most fatal heart attacks occur on a Monday morning. I was shocked when I realized that. And the reason why is because for many people, Monday morning is the most stressful time of the week, going to a job that they may not feel passionate or purposeful about. And so the stress builds as you get through the weekend. And sure enough, the coroner had noted that even though I thought my husband was just sleeping peacefully, he had actually passed away somewhere between 4:30 and 5 a.m. So that moved me to the point of where we are today. Breathe. I had a spiritual mentor and good friend who would text me every day and remind me to breathe. And when you are going through depression, losing weight, not eating well, just thrown for a loop, you forget to just take time and be still. And right now, while we're all going through this pandemic, of course, a couple of months ago, we were all forced to be still. So that same weekend before my husband passed, I actually was doing a book launch that's listed there in that slide, How Much Joy is in Your Journey. And little did I know that 2 days later, I would really have to embrace how to be able to regain, recreate, and redesign my life to have joy. So as a result, 3 years ago, he passed away 4 years ago. 3 years ago, I left education, came to South Carolina, where I'd never lived before, but was about 40 minutes away from my parents, and literally started over again. In the midst of doing that, I was able to contribute to a second book, If She Can, that focused on some military women as well as some civilian women who have had to redesign and recreate their lives. So feel free to take a picture of that screen because I'd love to talk to you all about your journey as well. Melissa, as we go to the next slide, I want to be able to share this with you. During these last 3 years where I've had to look at how do I breathe? How do I now go forth and live my life in a different way? I came across this, who many of you may know, especially if you have Apple products, is Steve Jobs. When I saw this quote, it almost brought me to tears. His quote reads, "If today were the last day of your life, would you want to do what you are about to do today?" I loved being a school principal. If any of you have ever worked in education, oftentimes you go into education because you love helping people and you want to make a difference. But that morning when my husband had passed away, I found that going to work every morning was awful. It was difficult. And as a school principal, I had to be there. This was the last week of school before moving forward into the summer vacation. And so that previous weekend when I had my book launch, my husband had said, "Hey, hold next Saturday open so that we can plan for the summer." And instead, that Thursday, we had his funeral. So as we look at the next slide, I want to be able to share with you that I came across this lady. She wrote the book, Always a Good Girl. Her name is Shane McClendon. And when I came across this quote, "I will breathe. I will think of solutions. Worry won't control me. Stress won't break me. I will simply breathe. It will be okay because I don't quit." And as I prepared for this presentation today, because that's the first time I've used Shane's quote, I remembered thinking that as a military woman, as a military connected woman, and I served as a military spouse, and also both my sons are veterans as well. One was a medic and one was in field artillery. I was mission oriented when I had to recreate my life May 16th, 2016, or should I say May 17th, 2016, because he passed away on May 16th. And at that point in time, when my spiritual mentor and sister said, "Just breathe, Janae," I didn't know what that meant. But I knew that the military had taught me, by any means necessary, be mission oriented, focused on each thing that you have to do next. And so as we go to the next slide, I want to share with you that the same way that I did it, you can do it as well. So I know several of you may have come on this call today feeling a little bit stressed, trying to fit this in depending on what your time zone is. So I want to take a moment to take us through a deep breathing exercise. And for any of you who may have experienced mindfulness strategies and activities in the past, deep breathing is a great way to clear your mind and to relieve stress. And so in order to breathe more and stress less, this helps to keep the pressure down. And as I went through my last 3 years of transforming and redesigning my life, I had to start every morning, and it helped me a great deal with this technique. So as we continue moving on, I want you to just sit in a relaxed position. And as you sit in a relaxed position, just want you don't have to cup your fingers as you see the lady at the top of the picture do. You can have your hands rest calmly on your thigh, or if you're laying down on your bed. And I want you to close your eyes. And we are going to use the 4-7-8 breathing technique to lower your stress level or to make you feel more relaxed and calm. Close your mouth. And I want you to inhale through your nose, and I will count for you. I'll walk you through it to a silent count of 4. Then you're going to hold your breath for a silent count of 7. You'll then exhale completely through your mouth to a silent count of 8. And then you'll repeat the cycle 3 more times for a total. And I will walk you through this. You will close your eyes and close your mouth if you feel comfortable doing that. If you don't, then simply fix your eye on an object in front of you. And I want you to inhale through your nose, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exhale through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Repeat, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more time, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you are ready, calmly open your eyes gently. Breathe in gently and exhale gently. And Melissa, the next slide, please. Thank you. So ladies, what I found in the research as I was writing the book, How Much Joy is in Your Journey, and as I was trying to establish techniques and strategies to be able to help me breathe, B.R.E.A.T.H.E, through these next several years, one of the things that I found was that as I was making my transition to achieve this new mission in my life, which was to recreate my life, I found that I was so busy being busy that I didn't work on myself. And so often as women, we do that. We may be caretakers, nurturers, givers, and in doing so, we give to everyone, and then we forget to give back to ourselves. And what we end up finding is that we end up having an empty cup. And you cannot pour into others from an empty cup. But just as importantly, you cannot pour into yourself, and you will burn out. And so some common obstacles that consistently prevent people from living the lives that they want include, you think selfish is a dirty word. All right, as mothers, as girlfriends, as wives, as people who work inside of different fields, oftentimes when we take time for ourselves, we may feel guilty. Another obstacle that happens is your schedule does not reflect your priorities. Now, we say that family is first. We may say that church is first. We may even say that kids are first. But what I had found especially was that really I said one thing but my actions were another. I was career driven. I came into working into education as a second career. I knew that if I earned advanced degrees, that would impact my pay. I knew that I didn't want to be in education for 30 years because I had already spent a number of years in another field, part of it being in the military. So I wanted to make sure that I expedited earning as much as possible, being as trained as possible. And guess what, ladies? When we go back to school, pursue certifications, open businesses, we are following our dreams, but who doesn't have us? Those who are important to us. The third item was that I found in the research was, thank you, Melissa, is you feel drained by people, places, and things. Why? Because you're constantly dividing yourself out to be there for everyone else instead of being there for yourself. You feel trapped by money. Danielle had mentioned earlier that she'd like to start having financial stability and building the future that she wants. Adrenaline becomes your main source of fuel. How many of you, like myself, enjoyed Red Bull, had caffeine alert tablets? I was a chocoholic. I always had Snicker bars nearby, and my waist and thighs certainly showed it. Also, you are missing a supportive community in your life. As I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned, I'm the oldest in my family of 3. I have 2 younger brothers. I have come from a family of a lot of male cousins. I'm the only female in my family that joined the military, only one who became an administrator. And so I'm used to being by myself, being intrinsically motivated to achieve. And a lot of military women are that way as well. And so when I relocated to South Carolina, I found that once I started reaching out to other people, I began to not only heal faster, but I ended up creating a supportive community. But so often we may not do that. And if you are a woman in the military, of course, we are outnumbered. And then the other obstacle that was noted in the literature was that your spiritual well-being gets last place in your busy life. So thank you, Melissa, for taking us to the next slide, because on the next slide, I have here the comparison between, you think selfish is a dirty word? Well, in the B.R.E.A.T.H.E strategies, and feel free to take a picture of that with your cell phone or a screenshot with your computer. The 7 strategies I'd like to introduce to you today to overcome the obstacles that prevent you from living the life you want is exactly what I had to do in transitioning from my career in education, transitioning from being an empty nester with my sons moving on to continue with their lives, and most painfully transition from being a widow, transition from being 28 years married to being a widow. And of course, there may be those of you out there who are actually transitioning from being married to being divorced, or being single to being married. We always experience different transitions in our lives. So in the 7 strategies, where I'm trying to share with everyone that you may think selfish is a dirty word, however, bring you to the top of the list. Your schedule does not reflect your priorities. I want to encourage you to readjust your priorities, because ladies, what I have learned myself in these last several years, so much more importantly, is the fact that you need to be a priority in your own life. Tomorrow's not promised. So often, like myself, I felt, oh, hey, I have 6 more years, and then I can go ahead and retire early with 25 years, actually 4 more years, 25 years in education. And then I thought, my husband thought the same thing. What if I don't have that time? What am I missing out in terms of time with my children, with my parents? My dad will be 80 in November. My mom will be 79 next month. The third item was, you feel drained by people, places, and things. Examine what is exhausting you. That's what I oftentimes take women through in the process. Examine what it is that's exhausting you, because until you know better, as Oprah Winfrey would say, you won't do better. All right. Number 4, you feel trapped by money. And as I mentioned, I referenced Danielle earlier. The A in B.R.E.A.T.H.E relates to act on your financial health. That was a biggie for me, because being married for 28 years, yes, I was the one that handled the finances, paid the bills, was responsible for getting the taxes done. But can you imagine, I'm sure several of you can, what it feels like to be a 2-income family and suddenly be a single income family? Even though I didn't have young children in my home, it was a big adjustment, where I thought that life was going to position itself differently in the next several years. I had to prepare for that. The fourth one, adrenaline has become your main source of fuel. T, treat yourself with what energizes you. So I work with women to be able to identify what is it that energizes you. For myself, I learned that I actually enjoyed walking in the morning. I actually enjoyed being able to start a gratitude journal. When I was younger, I had what we call then a diary, and I stopped writing in a diary because my younger brother got a hold of it. And I said, forget that, I'm out of here. Never wrote in a diary again. But I found that in the last 3 years, by starting a gratitude journal, even though those mornings that I woke up and I felt that my life was not what I had planned for myself, I committed myself to having this gratitude journal, to be noting in the journal 3 things that I was grateful for this morning. And I tell you, ladies, sometimes the one thing that I could write down was that I woke up. Sometimes the one thing that I wrote down was that it was raining outside and we need the showers to bring the flowers. I had to reach deep in order to be able to see that there are things that are still occurring and that there is a purpose for me being here. All right, the 6th thing was you are missing a supportive community in your life. So H in breathe is have a soulful, supportive community. That's empowering. When you surround yourself with other like-minded people, you feel as though anything is possible. When I found out about the Women's Veterans Alliance, I was amazed. I had never joined a women's veteran group in the past. 1, I was too busy. And 2, I had the misunderstanding that, well, you know what? My whole career was in active duty. I won't be able to relate to these other women veterans who were active duty during Desert Storm, all of Desert Storm, or had served in Afghanistan or Iraq. What will we have in common? But then I found when I joined Women's Veterans Alliance and even a local group of women veterans, and we met once a month to go out to dinner, that it was so empowering. When you are around other people who are like-minded, it empowers you to go forth and do what it is that you need to do. And then the next item, the 7th item that has been an obstacle is your spiritual well-being gets last place in your busy life. And so the E in breathe is to embrace your spiritual well-being. And oftentimes when, thank you for that, Issa, oftentimes when I speak to different groups, you know, I share with them that there's a difference between spiritual well-being and being religious. And so it's just, and they both can coexist. It's a matter of what is it that you can do that helps you to be centered. And that's when I started to engage myself in meditation more readily. Thank you, Melissa, for the next slide. And so as we continue moving on, the B in breathe, bring you to the top. What does that mean exactly? It means it means more than just getting our nails done or getting a massage, which is some of the things that I heard when I used to participate in self-care workshops. And I was thinking, I'm gonna need a little bit more than that. Now, one of my cousins did convince me to go ahead and have a monthly massage, and it was great. But as I dove deeper and I started getting requests to speak at Women Entrepreneur Group, female women who were educators, women who were in the medical profession, I said, oh, wait a minute. These are individuals who want to go deeper, do a deeper dive, as it were. So taking a step back, asking for help, which goes back to the community, spending time alone. I think each of us have had the experience during this pandemic of actually having to reflect, putting yourself first, knowing that when you put yourself first, you are better capable of being able to take others, asking for what you need. That was something that I wasn't comfortable with, being the oldest, being, you know, had 2 sons, a husband, being around a lot of men. I wasn't comfortable asking for what I need. You know why? Because when I was young, and when I was younger, I was about 19, my first year in college, and my dad told me the story of his aunt that he loved immensely. You know how we all have that favorite aunt or uncle? And so this was his favorite aunt, and he had shared with me how she was about 40, 41, had an empty nest, was married to her husband for over 20 years, and she was ready to enjoy her fabulous 40s. But guess what? Her husband came home after the 3rd child left and had said, I have another family, and that's who I choose to be with. Not only did this favorite aunt become depressed, she did not take care of herself. Her diabetes became awful. It began with losing her toes, then both feet, then both legs, and she ended up dying, I believe, by the time she was 51. I'm inclined to say from a broken heart and from dreams deferred. And so I knew that I needed to ask for help. And as a result, I ended up not going to one grief recovery program, but two. And afterwards, I'm a guidance counselor. I've been a guidance counselor in 3 different settings, and I did not ask for help. And ladies, I'm here to share with you today that that is a game changer. Ask for help, whether it's a therapist or a coach, do it. And then also self-care can be setting boundaries, all right? For me, I had to learn that saying no was a complete sentence. You know, being the oldest in my family, I always said yes to everybody because I was one of the older grandchildren. I was the one that many felt had achieved the most. And so I said yes, 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 yes. But guess what? I realized that the only thing that's guaranteed, ladies, is this moment in time. That's why it's called the present, because it is a gift. The past is gone, tomorrow's not promised, but we need to set boundaries so that we can be fully present in our lives. And then also self-care can be simply staying at home. You know, some of us, we feel being busy means we're being productive. And meanwhile, that may not mean that. All right, so on the next, so that was B, bring you to the top of the list. On the next slide is R, readjust your priorities. So some of you may know Stephen Covey, the famous author of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of his quotes that he's famous for sharing is, you have to decide what your highest priorities are and have the courage to pleasantly, smilingly, non-apologetically to say no to other things. And the way to do that is by having a bigger yes burning inside of you. So I probably put too many slides on that one piece right there, but all of them kind of resonated with me. You know, what's really important in your life. That's what I had to look at 3 years ago when I started over again, so to speak, here in South Carolina. Do your priorities say the same? Think about it. So ladies, I want you to take an opportunity and think about, what are your priorities in your life? You know, you see a picture of someone who had written on a legal pad some priorities that they noted there. They noted a kid, spouse, you know, some things that they enjoy doing. One other opportunity that I saw was, are your priorities in order for those who are religiously led, you know, God, spouse, children, career? All right. Okay. Marie said it's on my, oh, fantastic, to read list. Absolutely, for Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But ladies, I want you to know that readjusting your priorities must, and this is a requirement, it must include taking care of yourself. When you take care of yourself and you want to be active in your church, guess what? You bring the best version of yourself to the table. You are more available to your spouse and your partner. Your children get an energetic you. Thank you, Issa. Your career thrives because you are taking care of yourself. And taking care of yourself means your nutritional intake, not the Lay's potato chips and Snicker bars that I have been sharing with you was my mainstay, and pizza, because of course when my sons were on the football and wrestling team, I tell you, pizza on a Friday night was the go-to. Increasing your physical activity actually energizes you. And I'm not suggesting doing CrossFit or a boot camp, but just being mobile and sleeping well. I used to pride myself off of being able to do all that I can do on 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. Little did I know until I came into this line of work that I was killing myself slowly. If you are only sleeping a few hours a night, you are not allowing your body to rejuvenate and recuperate. And guess what? That's the sign. We take better care of our cars than we do ourselves when we are depriving ourselves of that regeneration. And reducing stress. Stress is definitely a big killer. Okay, so Melissa, thank you for that next slide. So we have B, R, and then there's E. Examine what's exhausting you. I have spent many late hours in my office as a principal. You know, there are games, there are projects, evaluating teachers, evaluating programs and curriculum, and I just had to get it done. But guess what? I was getting it done at the expense of not being available to my family, thinking that I had all the time in the world to quote unquote make it up to them. And when I saw this cartoon, you know, examine what's exhausting you, and the working mom enters the house and she says, oh my God, I forgot I had children. I can remember as a young mom, 2 sons, my sons are 13 months apart, and I was living in Augusta, Georgia, and I would come home at that time I was a middle school guidance counselor, And I had a neighbor who was a babysitter, and she would babysit the boys until I got home. And I loved the fact that they were so excited seeing me, but I thought about the dinner that had to be prepared, the homework that I might have had to help them with. And I remember going to the bathroom in my bedroom, and that became my sanctuary. I would sit on the porcelain throne, run the water in the bathtub so that the kids thought that I was taking a shower or a bath. And I remember my youngest son, Matthew, sliding his hand under the door, and I can see his little finger saying, "Mommy, are you still in there?" And eventually I got them accustomed to realizing, Mommy just needs 30 minutes, just 30 minutes. But you know what? A lot of times we don't accept the fact, or we don't acknowledge the fact, excuse me, that many of us have 2 jobs, maybe even 3. Those that we are taking care of outside of the home and what we're taking care of inside of the home. So it's so key and important to examine what's exhausting you. So Melissa, on the next slide I have for the ladies, some ways of being able to recognize what's exhausting you. According to the Career Builder Survey in 2017, some signs of stress include tired all the time, sleepless nights, aches and pains, high anxiety, weight gain, that's huge, inability to keep things straight, anger issues at work, and I might add at home as well, depression, all right? Another additional 8 warning signs that shows that we are mentally and emotionally exhausted. You're easily irritated. I can remember that with both my husband and my kids. You feel completely unmotivated sometimes because we're feeling overwhelmed. You're experiencing anxiety or panic attacks. I have a few friends who have had that experience. Trouble sleeping, you have almost no patience, you're experiencing indigestion. You start crying unexpectedly. Okay, that could be hormonal. And that could be, you know, when I was going through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. Overwhelm is real, ladies. Overwhelm is real. You feel empty. And I did as well. When my life changed 4 years ago, I realized that I was operating off of fumes. I was operating off of fumes, and you can't exist continuously like that. So on the next slide, I want to be able to share this next point with you. In B.R.E.A.T.H.E, there's A, act on your financial health, which of course Danielle had alluded to earlier. And what the research shows is we need to be aware, ladies, of how we are financially, okay? And so there are 4 key points: spend, save, borrow, plan. Spend, save, borrow, plan. In spending, spend less than your income. Pay bills on time and in full if at all possible, especially if you have a high interest rate. All right, save. Have sufficient living expenses and liquid savings. Have sufficient long-term savings or assets. I didn't really think about that as much. Why? Because I was in a 2-income family. We got this. We had investments from when we were in the military together. We didn't touch that. Our boys, you know, were going to college. They were older. We were about to live the golden life until I realized that I made plans and God makes the final decision. I realized it intellectually, but now I was living it. Borrow, number 5 and 6, have a sustainable debt load. Have a prime credit score. So having a sustainable debt load just basically means, you know, we all have debt. My dad, who I shared, you know, is 80 in November, has often said, hey, you know what, when we go to the hereafter, our family is going to have the debt of preparing our homegoing service. So debt is always going to exist. So what we need to look at is, how can we maintain a balance and not accrue more debt than we know that we can take care of? And of course, the prime credit score, in case you want to get a loan to start a business or buy your home, you know, those are reasons. Now, of course, I know in my church, there's the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace Curriculum that our pastor had taken the whole congregation through, which promotes, you know, just paying on cash. And so whatever it is that's going to help you to move forward financially, do that. And it's small steps, much like what I've had to do these last several years. And then plan. All right, planning, have appropriate, oh, I'm sorry, go back, I'm sorry. Yes, in planning, those 2 points there, have appropriate insurance, plan ahead for your expenses. I was in the military previously. I was in the school system. Worry about insurance? No, that was all part of the plan. And then I decided to become self-employed. Now I needed a new plan. Didn't realize how expensive it can be if you're a self-employed person. Unlike other people who still have little kids in the house and going through the experience as being a single income family, that can be very challenging. All right, on the next slide, thank you so much for that, Melissa. On the next slide, where we have T, treat yourself with what energizes you. So in this animation here, the lady says to her husband, I was so tired at work, the other nurses had to revive me with CPR, coffee, Pepsi, and Red Bull. Ladies, 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 we do not want to be energized, but I have done it so many times, by coffee, Pepsi, and Red Bull. One, you know, coffee and Pepsi is going to stain those pearly whites that we have. But two, it is horrible on our kidneys. So I just wanted to make sure that I emphasize today that there are three categories for energy. There's our physical energy. Spend some time thinking about what builds your endurance and your fitness. For me now, it's walking at least 3 miles a day in my subdivision and getting, you know, some of the sunlight. What creates mental energy for you, enables you to focus and be attentive? For many people, that mental energy may be created through meditation. It may be created through dancing, singing. Emotional energy enables excitement and connection. For many people like myself, you know, I'm a relationship person. I enjoy being around people. During this pandemic, that was a big adjustment for me, as it has been for many people. I have since realized that I am an introverted extrovert. I am definitely an extrovert, love being around people, but during this pandemic time, I said, okay, Lord, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from the experience? And what I learned was the importance of being still. And in being still, I found that I can connect with people virtually and that I can develop that, and that we all need to be connected. So that was T. On our next slide will be H in B.R.E.A.T.H.E, and that is have a soulful and supportive community. For many of us, we may have avocations or hobbies that enables us to be around other people. And of course, that's difficult while we're going through our health crisis. But I want to be able to emphasize that experiencing significance with community is a two-way street. We must invest in the lives of others in order to be invested in. And so my greatest growth these last 3 years was being involved with Women's Veterans Group. In addition, I got involved with the local Red Cross, where I do resiliency workshops for military affiliated organizations. And most recently at the McDougall Correctional Facility that actually has a wing for veterans. And it has been amazing. It has been absolutely amazing. The other thing to be aware of in terms of having a soulful, supportive community is that it requires us to be vulnerable within the community, and it results in trusting. I was never one to share much about myself, but I had to, and that helped. On the next slide, moving right along, thank you, is E, embrace your spiritual well-being. And that may involve meditation. And thank you, Melissa, for going to the next slide on that as I pick up the pace a little bit. All right, so I wanted to make sure that you had a moment in seeing what having spiritual well-being can do for your physical, mental, and social health. So if any of you have your phone or definitely take that screenshot, and there's some research, pretty tiny, listed below. But from a physical health standpoint, the research shows that when you have some way of being spiritually grounded, they actually have research that shows that it extends your life. You have lower rates of a vast array of diseases. In terms of your mental health, when you can be spiritually centered, whether that's through yoga, meditation, some other type of centeredness, you have higher levels of happiness, hope, satisfaction, and well-being. And from a social standpoint, in terms of your social health, I found it really interesting where they shared that greater marital satisfaction and adjustment. And I thought, wow, I've been married 28 years. I won't say it's all been glorious, not rainbows and unicorns, but it was an opportunity for us to be able to seek guidance from, our religious leader when we were having those bumps in the road and realize that there's a power greater than us. So those are some things that the research shows. On the next slide, I'd like to share with you this poll question right here. If you had to choose, which of these could help you to build resilience and create the life you want? Would it be weight, eating, motion, sleep, mind, or your surroundings? Or it might even be all of the above. Let's take a second, if you could put that in the chat for me, just the number, you don't have to type it out. Which of these build your resistance, not your resistance, excuse me, your resilience, and create the life you want. When I began my own, okay, oh, 7, all of the above, absolutely. Yes, yes, I see a couple of 7s, 2 and 3 in there, definitely, definitely. Number 5, healthy mind. Yes, mindset is everything. Absolutely, it impacts everything so significantly. Thank you for sharing that, lady. So as we go to the next slide, I want to be able to share. Some of you may recognize this lady. This is Sheryl Sandberg, and she is a high up there CEO who wrote the book Lean In about women in leadership positions. And she wrote, you are not born with a fixed amount of resilience. Like a muscle, you can build it up, draw on it when you need it. In that process, you will figure out who you really are, and you just might become the very best version of yourself. So as we go to the next slide, that was so key for me. If my identity revolved around wife, mother, school principal, community, active in the community, who am I now that all of that has changed? And so who am I? I'm an optimal health coach, and I feel that I save lives. I help people build their resilience and create the lives they want through the macro habits of health. Yes, I had to downsize my life. Yes, I had to get a grip on my finances. Yes, I had to get a grip on my health, but it was all necessary so that I can bring my best version of myself to the table. Because why? So that I can be there for my sons, for my parents, and bring my best version to this world. So on the next slide, I do want to be able to elaborate a little bit further that the macro habits of health include healthy weight management, healthy eating and hydration, healthy motion, healthy sleep, healthy mind, healthy surroundings. The habits of health are the things we will bring into our lives that will live on, and their benefits will far outweigh the work and time it takes to learn and install them. And did you ladies realize that almost 2/3 of us as Americans are overweight or obese? And so the macro habit of healthy weight management will be where most people start, and that's where I serve most people. So on the next slide, Melissa, I would like to be able to share with the ladies that reaching a healthy weight reduces one's overall risk of disease. So some of you may want to take this as a screenshot, or if you want to text me, text me and I'll be glad to send it to you. But when you reduce your weight, you reduce the disease, you reduce migraines, you reduce the amount of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that can occur. You also, I have a friend who has polycystic ovarian syndrome, was not able to have her child naturally, but I am the proud godmother of her daughter who she adopted almost 13 years ago. Individuals' quality of life is impacted, not to mention depression, sleep apnea. My husband was 5'11", 52 years old, and he was about 260, 270 pounds. He had sleep apnea. Some individuals suffer from asthma, cardiovascular disease. These are all areas that are affected by the weight that we carry, and that impacts us being able to create the life that we love. On the next slide, I'd like to be able to expand for you as well. These are a couple of individuals that have been helped on the program. I help people on their path to permanent weight loss. The gentleman to the left, David, lost 200 pounds. He actually was 2 weeks away from going into gastric bypass surgery, which some of you may know is huge. The gentleman in the middle, Dr. Joe, he lost 123 pounds in 8 months. He realized that he was professing health and taking care of your weight to his patients, and he wasn't living by example. And then we have Linda, who lost 80 pounds in seven months. All right, achieving a healthy weight can very much help one to reduce or eliminate their medications. Leanne said she had gastric bypass surgery May 22nd, lost 31 pounds, feeling great, recovering. All right, Leanne, blessings to you. Blessings to you. All right, wow, yeah, I want to go ahead and put a hand clap on that one as well. Thank you, Issa, for remembering. Okay, so fantastic, Leanne. Thank you for being so transparent. All right, create vibrant health, ladies, and longevity. On the next slide, as we're moving right along, there I am. I also improved my resilience through losing almost 20 pounds. And now I have more energy, I sleep better, I recreated my life. And as an optimal health coach, I decided I needed to pay it forward by transforming people's lives through these macro habits. I knew that it now became, and some of you may think, oh, it's kind of strange, but my associate pastor said, Janae, this has become your ministry. And I do feel that way, because when you give someone's health to them, you are giving a gift to their family, you are giving a gift to their longevity, you are gifting their community as well. So on the next slide, I want to be able to go further with sharing that self-care and health is not just a number on the scale, it's a lifestyle that can reduce your stress and build your resilience. And on the next slide, thank you, Melissa, you are amazing. And so the program that I share with all of my clients has 4 components, and it involves health coaching, which is free. The health coaching portion is free. Habits of health lifestyle, which I take them through a life book where they journal for the next year. And then also there's a textbook that goes over a lot of the health oriented things that we need to know in those 6 different macro habits of health that was mentioned earlier: the healthy weight management, eating and hydration, healthy emotions, sleep, mind, surroundings. All of those are areas that I coach them through. And then the community of support. My clients being able to participate in the Facebook, as well as Wednesday webinars, as well as the newsletter. And what I have found helpful for myself was the structured meal plan, which involved around fuelings. And so I'm sure as Danielle, Danielle mentioned, over the past year and a half, she lost 45 pounds and stopped having joint pain. Oh, wow, we need to give another hand clap. Congratulations. I'm telling you, ladies, our health and wellness is huge in recreating our life. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so Melissa, as we go to the next slide and begin to wrap up here, what else do I do? Okay, Michelle, I'm going to get to what Michelle is sharing as well. What else do? I develop and train and support individuals who are already health coaches or those who want to become a health coach. From some of my clients, like I did, I was going through the program to redesign and recreate my own life, not just physically, but in those 6 areas of health and wellness. And it ended up becoming a second income stream for me. What started out as a plan B ended up becoming my ministry and a plan A. And I'm now able to help others to reinvent themselves. And several of my clients actually are parents who are creating income at home. And so Michelle shares here in the chat, thank you so much, WVA. Thank you for saying, make yourself a priority. Absolutely. And as she assists female veterans with VA claims, and so many veterans that are married to male veterans will take care of their husbands. Yes, yes, that is so true. Thank you to all the ladies put this program together. Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. And so as we go to, I guess we're on the final couple of slides, the slide right after this, Melissa. I just want to, oh, great. So I made it with 7 minutes to spare. All right, so ladies, feel free to take a picture of this screen, but what I want to say, in case anyone has any question, or we can open it up for brief discussion in our last several minutes, is please text me or email me if you'd like a copy of this presentation or to be added to my wellness newsletter. Also, I want to share that July 13th through the 17th, I am going to be sponsoring a Breathe Zoom series. And so what will happen during those several days is I am going to take attendees in a deeper dive in all of those areas. And also, I want to encourage each and every one of you, if you're so inclined, to let's get your courtesy discovery chat scheduled and explore you. And what I typically do and it's no cost to you, what I typically do in my health assessment chats is I help the person that I'm talking to accomplish their health. I explore with them their why, clarifying their why and wanting to create the best version of themselves. Because as a couple of our ladies can probably share with you, it's more than just fitting into a smaller size. It's how it impacts our relationships, the activities that we may be able to participate in. A number of things. The new job that we want to pursue. One of my clients is a 30-year Air Force veteran, and she lost a significant amount of weight on the program, and she shared it was life-changing for her, and now she's going to go ahead and pursue being a realtor. And so this is huge. This is huge. All right, and then for those who may be interested in finding out, well, Janae, how did you become a health coach? Because it had very little to do with my degrees. It had more to do with the motivation to want to help to save lives. So as we go to that final slide, Melissa, I just want to take the opportunity to again thank Melissa Washington. Let's give Melissa a hand clap, ladies. Woo woo! Woo woo! Thank you so much. Melissa, you are amazing. You have created a platform for all of us to be able to be there for one another, support each other. It is priceless. In so many ways, you have given the life back to many women to feel that they have a safe space to be able to talk, to fellowship, to have a community that lets them know it is never too late to recreate your life. I'm Dr. Janae Bishop. I am purposeful in helping people to save lives. And again, thank you for letting me join with you today. God bless.
Dr. Janae Bishop, fantastic. This was probably one of the best hour I spent all week. Fantastic. So we still have a few minutes left. If anyone would like to share a question or just any thoughts, but like Dr. Bishop said, feel free to reach out directly to her. Her enthusiasm is amazing and hopefully contagious to all of us. So again, thank you for sharing your story and your journey and your willingness to continue to help others as well.
Thank you.
So we're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat. Awesome. So for any of those that are Women Veterans Alliance members, we do have our library of all of our webinars. So this will be available there. And also I'll message out to all of you that were on the call that are not a member, a link to get the this webinar as well. All right. Well, I think that does it. And thank you again, everyone, for being on this call today.